Hello everyone and welcome back to the Legends of Chess tournament where we have the first game featuring an actual legend. It is Boris Gelfand facing Liren, and I would just like to say that before this game the two of them faced each other 8 times, and those 8 games were classical games, and in those 8 games Ding won 3 games, Boris won 1, and 4 games were drawn. However, this is a rapid and we'll see what happens here. Now this is I think this is the best game of day 1. Some of the games are still being played, but I don't see them being more exciting than this one. I could be wrong though, it has happened before. So without further ado, let's check it out. And oh yeah, I would just like to mention one more thing. There is a link in the description below. Do click on it. It's a really an awesome chess music video by Ng3 Nd6. He played a bullet game against me and made it into a music video. So I'm not gonna spoil it too much for you, but do check it out. You know Adam, he makes some of the thumbnails we've enjoyed on this channel lately, and he's also the newest member of our chess manga team. So do check it out. A link is in the description. Now, getting back to this game, Boris opens with d4. We have knight to f6 from Ding, c4, we have g6 and knight to c3, and Ding goes for d5, and we have the Gruenfeld defense. We have captures, and e4. Boris goes for the main line. Knight captures, c captures, and now bishop to g7. We have bishop to c4 by Boris, of course going for the main line, and now c5. Ding strikes in the center, as you do want, as you have all of these nice pieces here attacking the center. So knight e2, Boris develops while adding a defender to the center, and knight to c6. Ding again develops by attacking the center. Bishop e3, Boris does the same, as this is the theme of the main line of the Gruenfeld, and now both players castle. So castles, and here the most common way to continue developing is bishop g4 and queen to c7. However, Ding goes for sort of an offbeat line with b6, prepares to develop the bishop to b7, bring the rook into c8, play knight to a5, and go for the usual Gruenfeld stuff. So queen to d2 by Boris makes sense to make this battery. At some point you might want to exchange white's dark square bishop for black's, and bishop to b7. Ding just continues developing. We have rook f to d1 and rook to c8 now by Ding. We have rook a to c1 by Boris. Now the development of his pieces has been completed, and e6 now. Numbing the power of the light square bishop, and also fighting for the d5 square now. And now when the rook moved to c1, you're no longer really worried about any dark square bishop action. You want to play d5 at some point and claim the center. So here there is a move bishop to h6. This is a known move. It's been played in the game Lequang Liam versus Alexander Grishuk in the World Cup 2013, where Lequang Liam won a game against Grishuk with this move. However, Gelfand goes for bishop to g5. He attacks the queen. It's a bit of a different idea, not such a forcing line, and it is already as of move 14 that we have a completely new game. So let's see what happens here. Queen d7 by Ding, and now just h4. Boris, even though he's not very active lately, he's been following the development of chess theory via, of course, Lila Chess 0 and Alpha 0, and he knows that you should always push your h-pawn to victory. So we have knight to a5, the usual Gruenfeld stuff, putting your knight on the rim, attacking the light square bishop, and bishop back to d3 now. And here, Ding takes this opportunity to trade some pieces, pawns in the center, and trade off some rooks. So captures, and here we have rook captures on c1. Rook captures and rook to c8. With this move, Ding now completely trades off everything and is left with two very nice bishops and a knight on the rim, but the knight can easily rejoin the game. So rook captures on c8 by Boris, queen captures on c8, and now h5. Boris continues pushing the h-pawn, as that's how modern chess is played. We have knight to c4 by Ding, bringing the knight back into the game, hoping for bishop captures, but of course Boris goes queen to c1 now with a double attack on the knight. And now b5. Later on in the game, Ding will probably play a5, move the knight, play b4, and try and create a pass pawn here on the queen side, as he does have the 2-to-1 advantage on the queen side. However, h6 from Boris, now really in the style of Lila. And now bishop to f8, keeping an eye on that h-pawn, but also controlling the entire queen side now. We have queen to f4 by Boris, and Ding now just plays a6. He says, there aren't any threats on the king side. It looks scary, but it's really not. My dark square bishop is taking care of everything here. So knight to g3. Boris brings the knight deeper into the attack, although it's not at all clear where the knight is going. Probably something like e5 knight e4 and something like knight to f6, which would be ideal for white. So knight to d6 by Ding, now putting pressure on the e4 pawn. If the knight moves or the bishop, then the e4 pawn falls. However, e5, Ding was expecting the e5 move to come, so with this he already makes preparation for the knight to come to f5, which he does. So knight to f5, but now knight to f5 is not the most precise way. Ding should have gone for knight to e8, because with knight to f5, Boris finds a beautiful tactical shot. Knight captures on f5, sorry, not knight captures, bishop captures on f5, e captures on f5, and now you will pause the video and try to find, well, dare I say it, the winning idea for white, while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on keeping on attacking in the greatest of styles. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it's knight to h5. And now the problem with the knight to h5 move is that you don't really have the option of declining the sacrifice, because if you play something and you don't really have that many moves to play. I mean, what can you play? If you play something like bishop to d5 to block the pawn, knight f6 check just, for example, just picks it up. Bishop here, knight f6 check, picks up the bishop. So you could play something like a5, just continue with your plan here, but the problem is knight f6 check, king h8, and now d5, the knight covers both of the light squares, d6, d7 is coming, and it's just game over for black. So here Ding is forced to capture the knight. So g captures on h5, and now Boris goes for bishop to f6 with the terrible threat of queen g5 or g3 check. Bishop blocks and just queen captures with checkmate. It's that easy. And if this was well, any other player other than Ding, I think that this would just be game over. However, Ding finds the only move that allows him to continue the game, and that is bishop to b4. But bishop to b4 only allows him to continue the game. It doesn't actually save the game. But there is only one move that wins now for white. So for the second time here, feel free to pause the video and to win the game for Boris while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on spotting the only winning idea. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it's a3. I know, it's always funny when such a move is the only winning move, but this is the case here. But just in case you're wondering why not just queen g5 check or something like that, we will explore the options, as this game is very, very complicated for a rapid game. If this was a classical game, this would be so crazy. But point is, after queen g5 check, the problem is after king f8, queen g7 check, king to e8, and queen g8 check. Now the king doesn't move and allows you to capture, the bishop can just retreat via bishop to f8. And now, while you can go bishop g7 with a double attack, king e7 just defends everything. And the problem is black is now up a piece, and you will be able to like pick off this pawn, create a pass pawn, but it will not be enough to compensate for the extra piece. So here you could trade down, let's say, with e6 to force the king away from the defense of the bishop to win your bishop back. But now it's not a problem, as black can force a draw here. Let's say queen c1 check, king here, and you're gonna go queen to f4 with check. And now if this then just captures and you're getting checkmated, so you're forced to go back, and then again queen here check, king h2, queen f4 check, and so on. So really awesome stuff after this bishop to b4 move. Now the only thing that does win is a3, because now the bishop has no squares. So if you go to f8, then just queen g5 check, the king has no escape square on f8. This is covered, this is covered, this is covered, and now b4 is also covered. And the problem is with capturing that now queen g3 check just picks it up. And yes, it's equal material regarding pieces, but with this coming with check, king back to g8, queen g3 check now it's a bit of a different story, because there is no bishop to f8 check. And once this check arrives, you're going to capture here with check. You're going to go king to c6, capture this pawn, and now you have this pass pawn. It's just completely winning. So here, after bishop to b4, Boris unfortunately did not go for a3, he played d5. Similar idea, giving up a pawn for queen captures here, as now if Boris wants to save the piece, play something like queen a5, then, well, then you really have problems. Then you can go even bishop to e7, block off the king, and then it's just completely winning. So here, Ding immediately grabs this, he says, oh, this is just, you know, the saving straw. So Boris captures on b4, and now queen to c1 check by Ding. King to h2, and now queen to c4, going for a queen trade, but of course Boris not interested. He still wants to either checkmate black or pick off some of these pawns, create a pass pawn, and win the game. So king f8, Ding doesn't allow this to happen with check, and now f3, taking away some squares here, and also blocking the light square bishop. So for the moment, you are doing well still here as white. So king e8, Ding looks for sanctuary on the other side of the board, and now queen a5, threatening queen to d8 checkmate. So of course Ding has to go back, and now queen to a3 by Boris, threatening this checkmate. So queen now has to move away from the defense of the a6 pawn, queen c7, and now Boris grabs it with queen captures on a6. And now it's 5 pawns to 5 pawns, but with Ding's king being so vulnerable here, it's very hard to say how this game will end. So here bishop to c6 by Ding, not allowing the queen to have any access here, and now queen back to a3, still keeping an eye on this e7 square, so the black king for the moment cannot go anywhere without defending the e7 square constantly. So king d7, Boris starts running away, and now queen to f8, still going for this h7 pawn. That guy needs to be eliminated. We have bishop to d5, now guarding this pawn. You don't want to part with this pawn either. And now queen to g8, going after the pawn here. But now queen to c4. Here the problem is, if you go after the h7 pawn, that there actually is no problem. But it's hard to see that queen captures on h7 also wins. Because it's you have to see that after queen f4 check and king here and bishop captures on f3, you don't have to accept this, and you can just continue with your game, and black will not get a single tempo here to finish the job, because you can just continue harassing, queen e8 check, and at some point queen b6, you will be able to remaneuver your queen to the defense of the king. Let's say bishop d8 check, king a7, you're gonna go queen d7 check, king here, queen c8 check, you're gonna go king to a7, and now finally queen to c5 check. And with this queen now guarding the f2 square, you will be able to bring the queen back. So now let's say king b7. Now you can capture here, and after this check, you will be able to defend with the queen. Let's say queen checks, you're going to go here, check, and finally block. And now with the extra piece, of course, you are winning. But not an easy thing to spot with the seconds on the clock ticking away. So Boris goes for queen to d8 check instead. Idea being that if king here, then this is just checkmate. So of course Ding goes the other way, not getting checkmated. King to c6, and now comes queen to c8 check with king to b6, and now queen captures on f5. Now you have this this as an option in the future. You will capture this, you will capture this, and hopefully finally win the game. So bishop e6 by Ding, and now not going for queen captures on h7. First Boris goes for queen captures on h5, because now it's just a very straightforward draw. You cannot touch the h3 square, so you have to go back, and now queen e3 check. You can't go here because of bishop c4 check, so you'd have to repeat moves like this. So here Boris instead captures the h5 pawn. But now queen to f4 with check, king to g1, and now queen to e3 with check, king h1, and now queen to c1 with check. Now Ding grabs hold of this diagonal after king h2 check, queen f4 check, king to g1, queen e3 check, king to h2, and queen to f4 check. The players agree to a draw. Rather, it's a draw by threefold repetition. So really an insane game. I don't know the exact age of Ding. I think Boris is at least twice as old. Boris is 52 at the moment, but he doesn't seem to mind playing rapid against one of the best chess players in the world, Liren, member of the 2020 candidates tournament, and just showing him who's the boss here. And Boris already won one game, so he actually had a chance in closing the match. This is actually game 3. So Boris won one game, and two other games were drawn. I don't know the results of game 4 as it's being played while I'm recording this, but you know, anything can happen. And if it will be an interesting game, we will of course show it. But I thought, even though we had a decisive game in the match, Gelfand versus Ding, I thought that this one was just incredible, and I thought I should show this one, because for a rapid game, this is just beautiful to watch. But you know, I imagine extremely exhausting to play. But that's the game, first game by an actual legend, Boris Gelfand. So I do hope you enjoyed it. I would like to thank Duitran, Carlo Botta, Michael Arboy, Nathan Wallace, and Tom Juntunen for contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot, I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing the coverage of the Legends of Chess tournament, checking up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. So thank you all, I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day, and do check out the chess music video in the description below. See you soon, guys.